Hello, and welcome to our Friends with Aurora Libraries Let's Get Gardening program. I'm Luan with Tagawa Gardens in Centennial, Colorado, and today I thought we'd talk about some great perennials that can invite pollinators into your yard. Plants that will offer a tasty buffet of nectar and pollen in mid to late summer when all of the blossoms of May and June have disappeared. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I am a beekeeper. So a lot of what I plant in my own garden is honeybee friendly, like all of the Russian sage and lavender here in my bee yard. When we think of pollinators, honeybees are often the first creatures that come to mind, and it's great to see so many people moving past the idea that these hard-working insects are bad just because they might sting. There are other pollinators we should be talking about too, and we'll do that in just a bit. But for now, as long as we're talking about lavender and Russian sage, let's start right here. So many varieties of lavender do extremely well in Colorado. The different types of lavender have different bloom times, but many of them flower in midsummer. They are irresistible to the bees. Look closely and you'll see the worker bees, the girls we beekeepers call them, tucking their straw-like proboscis into the tubular flowers that make up the larger blooms. The shape of these tiny nectar-rich tubes will show up in a lot of other pollinator-friendly plants too. Up next, Russian sage. These big, bushy plants are prompting a lot of interest at Tagawas lately as people are seeing the plants put on their midsummer show in highway medians and around office buildings. So you know, Russian sage has its good side and it has its naughty side. On the good side, Russian sage sets about a bazillion tiny trumpet-shaped flowers in the middle of summer, when forage for the bees is usually slim pickings. It's very drought-tolerant, routinely free of pests and diseases, and it's rabbit and deer resistant. But unless you get one of the smaller hybrid varieties, the Russian sage that is most commonly available will take off and run, to the point of being aggressive. If you want to fill up a space like a bee yard, that's great, but don't put Russian sage where you need a plant that will stay put. Let's change the conversation from honeybees to some of Colorado's native bees. You know, the honeybees haven't always been in this country. They came in with the colonists back in the 1600s. But Colorado is blessed to have more than 900 varieties of native bees that have been here all along. That's the second highest native bee population of any state in the country. What we plant can help them too. Some of these natives will be familiar, like the beautiful fuzzy bumblebees, both big and small. The natives also include shiny metallic green sweat bees. They get their name from their habit of sipping on sweat. The salt helps the females reproduce. Many of us have seen the calling cards of leafcutter bees. The missing bits of leaf are used to line the nests where the bees lay their eggs. Virtually all of the native bees are very gentle and not the least bit inclined to sting. Many of them are also excellent pollinators. So what plants will attract these native bees? Well, that depends in part on the shape and size of the flower. Many of the smaller native bees are drawn to yarrow. The flowers are usually yellow, but reds and pinks are available too. When the yarrow flowers fade, the seed heads can make a nice addition to dried arrangements. The bees are also attracted to the tiny flowers of a plant called catmint. The plant matures to different sizes depending on the variety, and it comes in shades of light purple or white. Catmint is not related to catnip, so tell Kitty that no, you haven't put in this velvety, soft, sweetly scented plant just for her. Honeybees and bumblebees are also drawn to a plant called cranesbill. It's a winter-hardy member of the geranium family. Look closely and you'll see several fine lines on the petals pointing toward the center of the flower. Pollinators see these lines as a kind of map leading them to a reward of nectar and pollen. The sunray-shaped petals on echinacea or coneflower also serve as a kind of road map. It isn't just different kinds of bees that are drawn to coneflowers. Butterflies love them too. Coneflowers offer a wide-open landing pad for the butterflies, which gives them a chance to rest while they gather nectar from the hundreds of tiny flowers within each coneflower blossom. Flowers with flat-topped blossoms like gaillardia or blanket flower are also butterfly-friendly. Blanket flowers come in lots of beautiful, rich colors, including the reds and yellows that give the plant its name. And let's not forget the hummingbirds. These flying jewels are not primary pollinators in this climate, but they do love their nectar. Reddish flowers are a hummingbird magnet. This little guy is feasting on nectar from a plant called redbirds in a tree. But tube or funnel-shaped flowers of other colors can draw in the hummingbirds too. Here are a few tips for when it's time to plant your new perennials. Make sure the hole all around is at least a few inches wider than the root ball. Mix in a handful of compost and some slow-release fertilizer unless the plant is specifically a drought-tolerant variety. Those plants don't like conditions that are too rich. Backfill the plant so it sits as deep as it was in its pot, no higher and no lower. And water it in well. Water again when the top couple inches of the root ball are dry. As the flowers on your perennials begin to fade, go ahead and cut them off. It's called deadheading, somewhere down near a leaf. When you take off the old flowers, the plant will keep putting on new ones. Remember too that insecticides and pollinators are not a good mix. Even organic pesticides can be harmful if they're not used properly. If you have to use a pesticide, please read the directions on the package and then follow those directions to the letter. So what's it going to be? Are you going to watch all of the pollinators go into your neighbors' yards? Or plant some of these amazing perennials yourself and watch as these delightful creatures come into your garden? Come see us at Tagawa's. We are your garden store, and so much more. If you like this video, please share it with your friends and find others like it on our Tagawa Gardens YouTube channel. Also, find us on Facebook and Instagram.